Kimani here. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be discussing a topic that I'm very much interested in and very much an advocate for, which is apprenticeships. Today we're going to be discussing what an apprenticeship is, what are the advantages and disadvantages of being an apprentice drawn from my own experiences, and what industries and where you can find an apprenticeship. So sit tight and let's get into the video. So what is a degree apprenticeship? A degree apprenticeship is a program which combines learning and working at the same time. The educational part of the apprenticeship is funded by your company whilst you're there working for them, essentially full time. So when do you have time to study? So essentially, your company will give you time to study in one of two ways. One of which will be block leave, where you'll get to a few weeks off perhaps to dedicate to your learning, studying, and to dedicate to time with your learning provider. Or you can be given a study day, which is 1 day per week that you get off to dedicate to your educational pursuits. Apprenticeships come in different levels as well, ranging from level 2 all the way to level 7. Level 2 is GCSE equivalent, level 3 is A level equivalent, level 4 and 5 are higher apprenticeships. So think of them as an equivalent of a foundation year or maybe 1 or 2 years in university. Level 6 onwards is a degree apprenticeship. So level 6 is equivalent to a full undergraduate degree, and then a level 7 apprenticeship is equivalent to a master's degree. And so depending on where you are in life, depending on what your pursuits are, you can choose any levels of these apprenticeships in order to further your own career ambitions. Which leads us on to the next question, which is what industries can you do an apprenticeship in? You can do an apprenticeship in basically any industry. Like when I say any industry, I mean anything. There's this common misconception that you can only do an apprenticeship in more like practical or in like tradesmanship, etc. But like you can actually find apprenticeships in professional services, such as like finance or tech or law. All of these apprenticeships can offer you the proper degree or qualifications that you need in order to pursue that specific career. So, what are the advantages of doing an apprenticeship? Well, there's a very obvious one that all your education, your qualifications, your degree, anything which you're earning whilst working is fully funded by your company and the government. So that gets out of the way all those pesky university fees that you might need to pay. Furthermore, you're also earning at the same time. So not only are you not going into debt to gain a qualification, but you're also earning money on top of that, which obviously as a young person can really help you build your financial independence very early on. Another thing I will say about apprenticeships is that from my experience, you're able to build a very good network from very early on. And we all know, especially in professional services, but I think this is just a rule of life in general, in that is that your network is supremely important if you want to get the opportunities that you need. Being in an apprenticeship gives you full on access to people within that industry, not only through other apprentices who are also working in those services, but people that you work with on the day-to-day, seasoned professionals who have been in the industry for years. And you get, not only are you learning on the schooling side, the bookwork side, like all the technicals, but you're also getting to see everything which you're learning in your textbook happen in practice, which can be supremely important. A lot of people they study everything in theoreticals, but they don't understand how it applies into the real world. As an apprentice, you don't really have this problem. Everything that you learn in school, ideally you're also going to see how that will help in your job, or just in your wider workplace as a whole. I think apprenticeships are also, again from my experience, really something that can really lead to a lot of personal growth and development in a way that I don't think necessarily like going to school could ever teach you the way that going to work would. So I know personally I've done things, I've learned things that I don't think I ever would have learned if I had gone to university personally. I definitely feel like I've grown a lot as a person, which you kind of have to as an apprentice. You're sort of thrown into the adult world and you're sort of like trying to find your footing through that apprenticeship. And whilst it can be difficult, as we'll discuss later when we talk about disadvantages, I do feel as if personally for me it's really been something that it's brought a lot of challenges, but these are challenges that, as someone who's quite ambitious, someone who's quite resilient, I've been able to work through and build upon my personal brand and build upon my own resilience in order to further my own goals. I do feel like it comes with a lot of personal and professional development. On the flip side, going into the disadvantages of doing an apprenticeship, for one, we could even say that part about like personal and professional development could be more of a downside sometimes, depending on who you are and what pace you work at. It can be a lot to adjust to, and I feel like some people it may be better for them because even though school may not you may not get as much access to a professional network and it's not as fast paced, you sort of get your own space to figure out who you are, and that might be something really important in young adulthood, to be able to stop and think for yourself, to really explore what you want to do and to explore as a person who you are and your different interests. Whereas when you're working, you may have and studying at the same time, you may have less time to be able to explore you as a person and explore who you really are. So there is definitely that flip side. I personally feel like I've lent more to the like personal development side and that I've really grown as a person through my apprenticeship. But some people might find it better to have a slower pace life where they have more time to dedicate to themselves and they may only want to do one thing at a time. So instead of working and studying at the same time, you may prefer to just study and then get a job afterwards. Because once again, another disadvantage is that working and studying can be a lot together. It's definitely a lot to manage, even though you do get your block study leave or maybe like you get your study day. It is still a lot to do because on top of doing like all the academic work, you also have a portfolio which you need to keep up with. Which, if you don't know what a portfolio is, it's essentially like a record of whether you've met your key learning objectives that come with your apprenticeship, and you need to be able to, so that's extra work added on top of your academic work that you need to complete in order to finish the apprenticeship. So not only do you have academic work, you have portfolio work, and then you have revision for qualifications and obviously any exams that you have. So it can be a lot to handle whilst you're working. But once again, if you have good time management skills and you're resilient and you're ambitious, I don't think this is really a problem. I think you got to do what you got to do in order to pursue your own the career that you want. But like I said, it's not for everybody. Not everybody wants to be working and studying at the same time. It can also be said that you might not have as many opportunities to explore different careers as you would be if you were to go to university or to enter some sort of full-time education than if you were to do an apprenticeship. So for example, if maybe you take an economics degree, you can do internships in marketing, HR, as an economist in the finance industry and consulting. You can sort of like switch between different industries to really find what your niche is and what you really enjoy. Whereas at an apprenticeship, whilst there may be opportunities to like rotate in different teams, it's normally in the same industry. So if you're doing a consulting apprenticeship, yes, you can go into different types of consulting like tech consulting, strategic consulting, management consulting, but it's all still consulting at the end of the day, if that makes sense. So that could be another limitation as well if you're not quite sure what you want to do, or if you're unsure about what industry you want to enter, because I do feel like even though yes, apprenticeships may be more restricted in the different types of careers you can like explore, I do feel like as long as you know the broad industry you want to go to, like for example, I know I wanted to go in finance and I specifically wanted to get into wealth management. However, let's say I change my mind tomorrow and say that, hey, I'm more interested in like the investment bank. That is something I could organize for myself, a rotation in the investment bank if I was so interested. So I will definitely say that don't look at apprenticeships as like rigid or like you can't explore anywhere else, because you can. It's just probably going to be within that specific industry. So like as long as you're tied down to that apprenticeship, it's unlikely you're going to be able to suddenly move from like I don't know, from like finance to like law. That's not going to happen. Now, the last topic that we're going to discuss is where to find in apprenticeships and how to apply. So applications for apprenticeships usually open between October and January. That's when they start to open up applications that you can apply to. If you want to find an apprenticeship, there are a few tips I would recommend. For one, if you know what industry you want to go into, I would just like search up companies within that industry and check if they have an apprenticeship program. Chances are, especially if they're like a really huge company, they definitely will have like some sort of apprenticeship program that you can sign up for. There are also many different like websites specifically dedicated to like students to find out where to find an apprenticeship. So there's Rate My Apprenticeship, that's what I used, and I also used Pathway CTM as resources to find apprenticeships and also how to improve upon my application to in the hopes of getting an apprenticeship. Also check out like usual job sites as well. So like LinkedIn is really good. Indeed, etc. Other job boards. Although I will say I would apply directly through the company. So for the like say you find like a job opening on Indeed and the company had an opening that you can apply for on the actual website, I would go through that. But still, it's a great tool in order to like search the web. The government also has like a website where you can find an apprenticeship as well. If you literally type in UK government find an apprenticeship, like you can search up your apprenticeship depending on the location to see if there are any available at the time. And like I said, it's available to any industry. So literally anything you want to do, search it. There's probably some sort of apprenticeship out there which you can do. And that's my brief summary of what an apprenticeship is, the some of the advantages and disadvantages, and where to find an apprenticeship. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you're more interested in this type of comment, please let me know in the comments. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.